Fantasy basketball fans, welcome back to the Make the Waffle Studios in beautiful Longmont, Colorado. Um, it has been a while since I've been able to check in, and just know that it's been busy. That's for sure. But I thought I would touch base on kind of a final wrap up for fantasy basketball 2025, still pretty much. I guess it'd be 25, 26. And we're in the midst of the NBA playoffs in real life, but regular seasons and playoffs ended for fantasy basketball, obviously, before the playoffs began. The interesting thing I've run into is there's a lot of enthusiasm as it relates to like getting the next year started and setting up actually at the end of a season for the next season, which I actually really like. I think it's one of those things that your future self maybe thanks you, especially considering, and I've been thinking about this some, well, mainly because I just love fantasy sports, but in the interests of time management and resource management, I feel like you ought to get your NBA stuff for next season done before fantasy football starts. And so I've got a few leagues where we're going to try and get our NBA drafts and stuff done after the NBA draft in June. And that way, when August hits and you're kind of hitting all of your fantasy football redrafts and stuff like that, redraft leagues, then you're in better shape time wise, I would say. So let's touch base on some things here. I will probably hit most of what I've done videos on in the past. And if I miss something, I'll, try and recap at a later, better time. I definitely don't want to, drag this on. These things go longer already than I really initially planned. First thing you should know, Boston Celtics. This was a sleeper league. Most of these are sleeper leagues now. The platform they have there is just really the best, I think. As far as it relates to Dynasty and being able to trade future picks, and it keeps track of things for you and that sort of thing. So Boston Celtics missed the playoffs. This was a league where only 6 teams made the playoffs, and it's a 30-team league. It was set up for an expansion. You could do 2 more teams, and there's a process for doing that. We never did, and then we talked about expanding prior to next season, and it got voted down really a couple of times. And I don't know that this league's going to expand. There was really some fear, I guess. I don't know if fear is a little extreme, but there was some concern that this league wasn't going to make it. I am now commissioner of this league. There was one roster that got liquidated, and another guy picked up a bunch of players, and everyone was like, well, this sucks. And then I was like, well, let me see if I can fix it. So I fixed all the transactions. I got a friend of mine to come in and take over a team, the one that got liquidated, and he ended up finishing second in this league, by the way. And it sort of survived. We lost, I think, probably up to 10 out of the 30 teams. We probably lost 10 owners. We have since filled them with some pretty active owners, and it does seem like it's going to work. So my Boston Celtics team, we only had 6 teams in the playoffs, and I ended up finishing outside of that. I was in the running all year and then had a really bad loss like the next to the last week and ended up missing the playoffs. But just so we know here, I've got my spreadsheet working, and I've got kind of some, white here generally means that they were cut or traded. If you look at this column over here, yellow means that I'm probably not necessarily into keeping them, and green means that I'm definitely going to keep them. And if you'll notice, Tatum here in this league is coming back. In fact, had I made the playoffs, I would have got to use him in the playoffs, but I didn't. And so I have made a couple of trades actually after the league was renewed. So after our season ended, we renewed the season, and then I made some trades. And so there's 3 players here: Hachimura, Goodwin, and Poole, who I've made some trades for. And I really feel like this team's kind of poised with Tatum coming back and with a little bit of a deeper bench now. we're in pretty good shape for next season. So feeling pretty good about it. Also, I would add, and this is if you're setting up teams, in Sleeper, it's probably something to think about while you're setting them up. This was set up for 3-round rookie draft, and in a 30-team league, that's too many. So a couple of adjustments that we've made. I didn't want to get rid of the 3rd-round picks because some have been traded, and there's been some transactions involving those, and so I did make our rookie draft actually rookies and vets. It also allowed me to, since we had 2 expansion franchises that are in the league but don't have any players, it allowed me to assign scrubs, if you will, for those draft spots since we decided not to use those teams. Now, if you follow the NBA, you'll know they plan on expanding after this next season. And so we want to keep those options open to us. So we've got the teams. They will play each other every week, so they don't really affect anybody's schedule. And they'll be empty. They'll remain empty. And then we'll talk about, expanding at the end of next season. And then honestly, I've told the league as well, if we decide we're just not going to expand, we will delete those 2 teams before we renew. And then we don't have to worry about them being in the draft board and all that stuff. So that's very forward thinking on my part, but it is things you have to kind of keep in mind when you are going to be commissioner of a league. If you're just a member, you probably don't have to worry about it quite as much, but commissioners have to kind of think of this stuff. So I was going to pull this team up. So my Boston Celtics team, we have a lot of draft picks. We have the 18th pick in the 1st round and the 2nd round, but then we also have the 229, the 230. We do have a lottery pick, and that's one of the things I was going to talk about with this league. And I'm not going to spend this long on every league, but I want to provide information that might be helpful. I decided to assign the picks based upon maximum points for from last season. So from lowest to highest. So instead of going with record, if you have a team that's going to just tank on purpose and have a 0-22 record or whatever, I don't know that they should get the first pick or even the first lottery odds necessarily, because if you look at what their team could have scored, maybe they should have done better. And so we go with the max points possible. You can find that. You can Google it. Go in your settings, go into previous leagues, go into your previous year, go into standings, go into details, and scroll a little bit to the side, and it'll show you the maximum points possible. I create a spreadsheet. This was the spreadsheet. I put the maximum points possible over here, and then I just sort by that column, and that gives me the draft order, if you will. Now, one of the ideas I had was to assign, so for example, the Bucks were the worst team in this fantasy league. Well, we're going to assign them the Wizards in the actual NBA lottery, and whatever pick the Wizards get is what pick the Bucks will get, because they have the same lottery odds, if that makes sense. That has proven to be way more complicated than I really wanted it to be, and it is the last time I will ever do that. If you're gonna just assign picks and not worry about a lottery, just go with max points possible, lowest to highest among your non-playoff teams, and just put them in and be done with it. That's the way I see it. And I actually think, in my humble opinion, the NBA ought to adopt something similar. For every night that you set out your star, you should just receive some sort of a point penalty, create a point system, but you get added however many points that person probably should have scored that night. And then you have sort of a max points possible standing, and then just assign your picks. And the team that literally had the most injuries, the team that literally had the most underperforming players, should get the first pick. And they don't necessarily have the worst record. Maybe coaching makes up for some of that, and they won a few games that they shouldn't have. But I think the lottery needs to go away. But that's just, my own little TED talk for the moment. So we're waiting for the NBA draft lottery in this. It's going to be on May the 10th. Then I'll assign the last few picks. And then from that point on, we're not doing the lottery. There are websites and stuff too, by the way, where you can put in odds and teams and do your own lottery. I also don't like those. We had a league where a guy posted a video where he did that, and in the video he put the teams in wrong, he put the odds in wrong, and then he put the draft picks in wrong. And to me, it should just be a lot more streamlined. Here's the order, here's the picks. If there's a problem, it's very easy to fix. You just have someone tell you, hey, you messed up on this. You go and you fix it, you're done. So that's probably the way we'll do that. But we are, I guess, in this instance, waiting on the NBA lottery, which is a little exciting in that we can kind of maybe have some suspense as far as it relates to who gets what pick. So that is my Boston Celtics league. I had some notes written down. Let me see if there was anything else I wanted to put here. Oh, I did institute in this league, since I'm a commissioner, a Instapass rule on trades. So there's no review period. And to me, if two people want to trade, well over 95% of the time, it's fine. Now, those trades can sometimes be bad trades, but that's not necessarily vetoable. Like, I can tell you now, if you have some future picks in there, if you have a guy who ends up injured for a year, there's a lot of ways that those things can kind of even out. The ones you need to be able to veto are the ones, like I said, where a guy drops all his players and another guy picks them all up. Well, that's not even a trade. That's just, okay, kick somebody out, fix everything, get somebody else in, and keep on going. But I do find that most of the time the discussion around trades is not necessarily relevant. Let people trade. Let them do what they want. And honestly, if you don't like a trade, analyze what happened there and then use it to your advantage. Go to the two people that were involved in that trade and try to trade again with them. And maybe you now have learned some insight into the way they look at things that you can exploit. And no trade is ever in a vacuum. And that's the problem with voting. And that's the problem with all the discussions around trades and stuff. These things, someone got something and maybe they got a huge advantage, but then they trade another piece of that they just received and get a disadvantage, and now it all evens out. So I did put that the trades will process immediately. That actually helps as far as like transactions and stuff, and it doesn't slow things down. And then I did put, if someone objects to a trade, the process is they have to go in and say, this is what needs to happen to make this trade better. And whether it's add a pick or whether it's take away a player or whatever it is, then the other two people can be like, well, I'm fine with that. And then they can just fix it themselves. And it'll again be insta-passed. And then if you can't get, consensus on that, you can have a commissioner come in and say, well, maybe it's a bad trade, but that doesn't mean it's vetoable. Maybe the commissioner comes in and says, yeah, I think we should make that adjustment. And then they can make it then or whatever. But so far since I've made that, which has been several days, if not a week, no one's done any trades. So I think we're probably okay. I did revamp the playoffs. I told you all we had a 6-team playoff. I'm trying to do, so we have now 30 teams, which was 2 15-team conferences, and I did just divide them based upon the existing NBA conferences. I did think about doing like the standings and even teams going one and odd teams going the other one, but I just really thought in the end it's easier and more fair, frankly, since there's already a 2-conference thing set up, just keep it that way. So if one conference is stronger than the other one, well, that's just the way it goes, because that's the conference that would stand in the real life NBA as well. We're going to try 14 weeks if everybody plays everybody once. Then we're going to do week 15, a play-in week, where 7 through 10 seeds on both sides play each other for 1 week to get into the playoffs. Then starting week 16 and 17, you have 2 8-team brackets, basically, that you have to manually enter. And you have a 2-week matchup for the first round of the playoffs. And you have 16 teams in, which matches, again, the actual NBA. After the first 2-week matchup, you're down to 8. Then you can just put your teams that remain into your sleeper app bracket and let those sleeper app handle the playoffs from there, pretty much. So Yeah, that's the way we're going to do it. And then we're going to do 2 week playoff matchups, and you end up with 20 teams getting a chance at the playoffs at the end. Um, you know, if you're in the bottom 10 in a 30 team league, then your season's probably over after week 14. And that, I think I'm okay with that. This does run you within like the last, I think it's the third week from the end of the season, which is cutting it a little close. A lot of people like to end the season sooner than that. I think with the 2 week playoff matchups, though, it balances out, and that's fine. So that was the revamp I did. And I sort of just kind of took this league over. There's two other commissioners. I never hear from them. And I just said, you know what, I want this league to survive. I brought my friend in, who he has a really good team and finished second, and I want him to have fun. So this one's one I sort of took charge of. Let's jump to the next one. Okay, let's take a look at my longest standing dynasty team. This one is the Oklahoma Outlaws. I stole that from the old USFL days. And Doug Williams playing in Skelly Stadium in Tulsa, Oklahoma, back in the day, where we had the worst weather possible for football in March that year. It was sleet all the time, and it was awful. And I loved it. It was professional football in Tulsa, and it was just the best. But anyway, Oklahoma Outlaws. So this is the 5th year of this league that we just completed, and I did not start, I don't think, until the 3rd season. So this is the end of my 3rd season with this league, and in fact, I'm not even sure I got all of the 3rd season. I may have come in like halfway through. So I've been around about half the time that this league has been in existence, and it's been educational. And one of the reasons I have done other leagues and formats this year, number one, is because I've had some extra time on my hands, but number two is to help me understand trade evaluations and that sort of thing for this league. It's one that I don't know about seriously would be a good way to describe how I take it, but competitively. I wanted it to be competitive, and I take over a team, I want it to succeed. And so what happened, if you don't remember in this one, was the very first season was awful. I do remember picking up half of my team off the waiver wire because it had been mismanaged. The next year I got a little bit better, not much, but a little. And then the next year I actually got a little bit worse, which that's why I decided, you know what, it's time to change my approach, or at least get smarter about my approach. So I did trade some draft capital trying to get, some better, really just get some better players. And one of the things I've done many times, if you'll notice this spreadsheet, is I'll just look at the sleeper rank as far as if you go to players and you go to leaders, and then just look at the rank, because it just ranks players from like 1 to 500. And then I put the number in here. And if there's 12 starters per team in this league, which there are, and there are 14 teams, then you take 12 times 14, you get a number, and I use your calculator. But let's call it 168 players or so should be starting in this league. Theoretically, you should have 12 of them above, ranked better than. So then I guess rank-wise would be the number would be below, better than 168th. I distinctly remember having, for 2 full years, 9 or 10 players that were really considered starters in this league. Now, if you'll look, and I've got this rank as of March 29th, which is almost a month ago, I am sitting, more at the 17-18 range here. If you're looking at Sam Hauser being, a starter every week on your team, then hopefully it's like a 32 team league, because he should not really probably be a starter, even with Tatum out. And he was pretty good with Tatum out. He really wasn't an everyday starter. And I can tell you in previous iterations of this team, he would have been. He started a lot. In fact, I even have it over here. He started 15 times. Lucky for us, this year he was on my bench most of the time. So he went up to 46 on the bench. And he should not be relied upon as a starter. So if you'll notice, I In fact, let me sort this by starts here. I have two golden players here, Russell Westbrook and Aaron Gordon. They were inducted into the Oklahoma Outlaws Ring of Honor, which is merely symbolic and nobody cares except for me. Those guys, they suffered through some rough seasons with this team. I have had them on the trade block. I've tried to get something for them. No one wants them, and so I've literally just been like, you know what? They are now Oklahoma Outlaw legends. They've led since I started this team. They have led in starts and have really just been relied upon. I mean, you'll notice here, they haven't been on IR that much this year. Aaron Gordon was. That's mostly this year. They haven't been on the bench much. Even when my team's gotten better, they've still found a way into the starting lineup. So you'll notice the future is now, though, because I've got three players here closing in on them next year to pass them in team starts. But this team really got so much better. And I'll tell you what it probably came down to was a waiver wire pickup. And I have noticed that after we do our rookie draft and when they set up the first waivers, that is critical. In fact, this year and last year, both, I think I spent every single fab dollar on the first waiver run because there's some people that get missed. This is a 14-team league, and all it takes is a few of those teams to not really be paying attention, and there can be some really good values found on the waiver wire. And this year it was Ryan Rollins. He was on the waiver wire. I started him 23 times this year. That's pretty much every week, and I got him off the waiver wire. In fact, I was going to look and see. I don't even think I bid that much on him. But that should not have happened. I don't know how that happened, but I got probably, I guess, lucky, and I'll take it. A couple other players that really, I got lucky on. Queta, Neemias Queta. Again, with Tatum out, he became pretty much just the big in Boston. I drafted Edgecombe, and he paid off. Look at this. He started 19 weeks. He was only on the bench 3. This Reynaud was a third-round draft pick, I'm pretty sure, and I started him 13 weeks. He was even started on my taxi squad. Traded for Suggs forever ago. He's almost always hurt. Now I finally got to use him some, and that worked out. So had a few of these guys in the middle that really helped us out. Ryan Rollins, I was just looking here. I picked him up off the waiver wire for $2 on October 27th, which I have a feeling means the season had already started. And that may have been just the first time we ever got to do a waiver run. I don't know. I mean, this might have been the second run. And if that's the case, I probably only bid $2 because that may have been all I had left. So this guy's been around the league a little bit, but he was involved in a Naz Reid trade back in February of 2025. But then he was dropped, and he just sat out there. And then I picked him up for $2, and he has been awesome. He's a third-year player, and I intend to keep him. That's why he's green over here on the side. So looking into next year, I made a couple of trades. I traded Jaden Ivey right before he got cut by the Bulls. He got traded by the Pistons to the Bulls, and then he made some weird comments on a social media site or a YouTube video and got waived by the Bulls. And I traded him for a second-round pick. I remember being upset because I spent a first-round pick on him, either me or the guy before me. It might have been the guy before me. And I finally just settled for a second-round pick, and now that looks like a stroke of genius because he may be done. He may be done in the league forever. So I traded Jaden Ivey. I traded Londale for a third-round pick. I did trade Kuminga, who I had given up some for, but I got tired of waiting, and so I traded him away, and that may end up backfiring. But again, when I think in terms of the big picture, the Ryan Rollins free agent deal for $2, I can afford to lose a trade or two. So when I go looking at going into this year, I did not have a first round pick. More on that later. I do have 2 second-round picks, and I have 4 third-round picks. And in a 14-team league, those tend to be worth a little more. Again, I got Renaud for a third-round pick last year, and he worked out nicely. So I'm pretty excited to have all those picks. And then in this league, they also did a sort of a contest where if you win the consolation bracket, you get a supplementary first-round pick, which would be the 15th pick of the first round. So you have to wait till the end. But I am stoked. I remember when they made up that rule, I thought my team is kind of poised to be right in that area. I want to say the last week of the regular season, if I would have won, I would have made the playoffs. And I tried. I did not tank. I did not take the consolation bracket road, even though I was more likely to win that. I really tried to get in. And to the guy's credit that ended up getting in, he did the same. We were like the first and the third scorers that week in the whole league, just trying to get into the playoffs. And so I didn't make it. And so then the very first week of the consolation bracket, I'm the top seed, if you will, the 7 seed in the league. And I'm playing the 14 seed who has gone 0-44 and has tanked all year on purpose. He finally decides to start playing because there's a draft pick on the line. And I got a little upset about it. I'm not going to lie. To me, if you're going to tank and go 0-44, you shouldn't get to all of a sudden compete for something. You haven't been competing all year. So we ended up in the first round of the consolation bracket tied. And of course, Sleeper's tiebreaker is the higher seed advances, which was me. And then I ended up winning the next 2 rounds, and I got the pick. So my anger subsided, but I fully anticipate going in the next year talking to these guys about you need to set, draft order by max points possible, not by record. I think tanking flies in the face of the whole purpose of this. It's not fun for anybody. It's not cheating. I get it. You can do whatever you want with your team, I guess, but don't come at me with you're serious about this if you're going to go 0-44. I mean, you got to work to go 0-44. So this team plays against the league average every week, as you're aware. So anyway, I do get a 15th pick, and then I have a couple of second round picks, and then I have 4 third round picks. And I really hope some of these guys in yellow, maybe even Gordon and Westbrook, if someone's into them, I really hope I can trade them for some roster space and keep some of these younger guys and just keep on getting better. So, Hardaway was great this year, but I just don't know if I'm going to have a spot for him next year. Duncan Robinson, who I remember picking up with my first waiver wire acquisition, probably don't have a spot for him next year. I got Lively coming back next year. Shouldn't have space for Hauser next year. So some of these guys that I've been hanging on to them and kind of carrying the load all this time, I hope they find greener pastures somewhere else, and I'm able to use these draft picks to get some prospects and watch them grow, which has kind of been the way I've been doing it, really, from the start. So this was a successful season. For the record, our team in this league was 25-17, and that was before the consolation bracket where we had to battle every week for that pick, and we won 3 straight. So 28-17. This team is not bad now, and that's it. I looked in the history. This is the most successful this team's ever been. It's never made the playoffs, and it finished 1 spot out. And I anticipate next year that's going to change. I would love for someone else to compete for that consolation bracket draft pick. So that pretty much covers this one. Let's move on to the next one. 18-team Dynasty League, and I won it. This is the only fantasy basketball league that I won this year. It was interesting because we had a league last year that did not get renewed, and I never got confirmation on this, but I felt like this was the spin-off from that one. So this one's an 18-team league. The one from last year was 24. And if I remember correctly, 8 teams made the playoffs in that 24-team league, and I finished ninth. I finished right outside of it, and I was really looking forward to, again, building that team up and making it better this year. Well, that league didn't renew, and all of a sudden I got this kind of random invite to this 18-team league, and I, again, think it's mostly the guys from that 24-team league. So I ended up winning it. My first round draft pick was Karl Anthony Towns. And the only other really draft strategy I would throw out there is I had White, Pritchard, and Simons. They were all Celtics at the beginning of the year. Simons ended up traded away. And I remember kind of handcuffing those 3 guys because, again, Tatum was out. And I thought, well, someone's going to have to step up. It ended up being really Brown, who I didn't get. But these guys had to play a part in that, and it really helped me out. So yeah, White was the 4th round pick. Pritchard was the 8th round pick, and Simons was the 7th round pick. And actually, now doing that now, I would reverse that. I would pick Pritchard before I'd pick Simons. But Simons is a Bull now. Probably the one real success of this was getting Jamal Murray in the 3rd round, and he had an all-star season, his first, and he was really, really, really good. And I got to be honest, 6th round pick of Podziemski. The guy gets some hate, but he's on that Midnight Society team that we just talked about, and I got him in a trade in the Curry trade. When I traded Curry away a couple of years ago, I got Podziemski, and he's just progressively gotten better. So was really happy to see that. And, for the most part, Kobe White was kind of a disappointment. He was on IR 9 times. I only got to start him 11. And Harrow was on IR 13 times, and I only got to start him 11. Harrow did come back for the playoffs, which was huge. Notice the Hauser sighting here. And then I picked Reynaud up off of the waiver wire. I picked Sensabaugh up off the waiver wire, Riseacre. So this team got a little better on the waiver wire. I sort of churned that bench and made it younger. And, really didn't ever have to give up much. I did end up cutting Hauser in an 18-team league. Again, he just was not quite good enough. I cut Jovic. There's just some, Connect was another guy I didn't really want to cut. So, I don't know. In the end, I think this team can repeat. For Karl Anthony Towns to be the 1st round pick, by the way, I picked 11 out of 18. And to win it was kind of cool. I would not necessarily have expected a championship, but we kind of rolled. Now, I will say we got the advantage of we were on the top half of the bracket as the 1 seed. I got a tie in this season that made a big difference standings-wise. So 2 teams that were really good and had both outscored me throughout the season had to play each other in the semifinals, and there was a little bit of an upset. And then when that guy made the finals, I was able to just beat him. So I really hope this league renews, unlike the one I think that spawned it from last year. And I will happily rejoin it and see if I can, create a dynasty, which is kind of the idea. Let's jump into the next one. So, cautionary tale time. First of all, this is a 24-team dynasty. This would be the one that I was invited to first for this year. And it was spawned, if you will, from an invite from the Midnight Society League from a dude who I get along with in that league. He wanted me to come take over a team in his other league, if you will. So I, of course, said yes. And again, I was looking to kind of branch out and get better at this. And so I jumped into this league with him. This team was terrible. And one of my philosophical approaches, whether or not it's realistic, I don't know, but I will typically try to make trades, even if I don't necessarily like the way they turn out in my favor or not on the surface, just to open the lines of diplomacy, just to start the dialogue and let people know that I'm willing to trade. That's where the cautionary tale comes in on this one. What I see in this league is, number one, and I can't stress this enough, a bunch of crybabies. I have blocked a couple of people in this league. I have since then unblocked them, trying to grow as a person here. but they complain constantly. They are not positive. I don't even realize if they are having fun with this. It's almost like they're enjoying being miserable all the time. So I did meet another dude in this league though, who I would consider, I guess a friend that we've never met, but we chat a lot in the DMs and stuff, and I've helped him start up a couple of leagues and stuff like that. So that has been a positive. I must stress to everyone out there, if you have a league that struggles to maintain its membership, like this one, because they have to find new members every year, there's a decent chance that some of your current members are running people off. Maybe not intentionally, but just their vibe is so negative and awful that people are like, you know what, I don't even want to be involved in that. Because I've had that feeling in this league a few times. I'm trying again not to leave, even though some have asked for me to be kicked out. And I don't even really feel like I've done much to warrant that. But look for toxic cycles in your chat room. And if there are people that are constantly negative, maybe put them in check a little bit and say, hey, you're one of the reasons why we have to find new people every year. The other thing I've noticed in this league is, and I think this is part of the toxic cycle, the people at the top run off the people whose teams suck, bring in new people like me, get them to trade with them, which again, I'm usually willing to do that with anybody, but then basically create kind of a top-heavy league. Like they're willing to trade to get people off the bottom teams, but they're not necessarily willing to trade, really valuable draft capital or players in return. They basically fleece, the top fleeces the bottom. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And it's kind of a capitalistic model that is not sustainable. So I called that out because I was constantly getting offers specifically for Dennis Schroeder, from this guy at the top. He was undefeated and he kept trying. And I finally said, look, I'm not interested in Schroeder, which is unusual for me. Again, I will usually work out something. But I really decided, you know what, this guy's really trying to take advantage of me. And so I just said no. And then the guy called me out in the chat and said, well, you can't be like that. And I will take that back to an extent. I said, hey, you can kick rocks. I'm going to do trades with the people at the bottom of the standings, not the people at the top, because I see a toxic cycle here and I want to break it. So he called me out in the chat and he basically said, you can't be that way. And I was like, yes, I can. And he started posting pictures of our chat where I was trying to work with him on Schroeder at the start. And he said, well, it looked to me like you were working with me. And I said, well, actually, if you'll notice what you just posted, it says right here, I'm not interested in him. So why do you keep sending him to me? And he got upset with that. And so I blocked him. And then he got upset that I blocked him. Recently, this league has not renewed. And there was one comment from someone who I actually do like, who said, I can't wait for the off season. And I said something like, it's hard to have an off season if you haven't renewed. And another guy came in and just blasted me saying, you can't ask us to change the rules. We don't renew until the playoffs are over. Number one, I didn't know that was a rule. And number two, that's an overreaction. You can literally just ignore me and not renew it if you want. But I blocked that guy too. And then they had a little dialogue, where I didn't see it, where they were asking for me to be removed because I was blocking people. So luckily, cooler heads prevailed. The guy said, look, you can't kick a guy for that. I unblocked them. I went and checked what had been said. And for what it's worth, when I have blocked them, I have remained silent. And when I have now unblocked them, I have remained silent. Silence is indeed a response to things. So I'm going to try to just stick with this, even though apparently at least one of them wants me kicked out. I am going to stick to my policy of not trading with the people at the top because I do feel like they are taking advantage of the people at the bottom. And it's just, I don't know, it's this league, frankly, it's harder to have fun in than some of these others because there's just so much negativity. And I'm going to try to set the example. I'm going to try to be the change that I would like to see in this league. And that is I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to run my team. I'm going to just tell people if I'm interested or not. And I'm not going to tell them why. and we'll just see what happens. But for what it's worth, I did make some moves in this league, especially with Alexander Walker. I think he is going to be awesome. I picked up Fleming off the waiver wire, who I think also will end up being pretty good. I traded for Pritchard. I picked up Richard off the waiver wire as well, who I think will be good. Clifford off the... I may have even drafted him. I think I did. Excuse me. But Sorber's coming back, which I think is going to help a lot. And I traded for Mark Williams, who I think is going to help a lot. So that league, I do have a lottery pick. I traded with some intent to get a higher pick this year. I do think the draft this year is going to be pretty deep. And we're going to just run our team. And there will be far less trading and far less dialogue from me in this league. I'm just going to mind my business and try to get better and see if I can jump in there and get these guys. Believe me, if I win it, I will probably be less quiet. But I'll still try and be nice. That is for sure. So that is the Oklahoma Supersonics in what is called the League. And it is a 24-team dynasty. Let's move on to the next one. Sporty McSportball team. This is... got distracted there a second. Sorry, but here we're all back. This team finished 12-8 and 14th in the standings. 8 teams made the playoffs, I'm pretty sure. And for some reason, we just 12-8 just wasn't good enough. I don't even really feel like it was ever good enough in this league. As far as points for, we were 15th, and points against, we were 30th. So we caught some schedule breaks, if you will, but it just never really felt like this team was gonna go anywhere. I did take over this team. I didn't draft it, so a lot of that has been just sort of me, making deals and just grinding. This team's definitely a grinder team. In that I really just tried to do the best with what I had. I did trade away Cedric Coward. May or may not end up being a gigantic mistake. For what it's worth, long term, I think we needed to shake it up, because again, if you've got Cedric Coward and you're bottom half in the league in scoring, then you got to spread some things around. You got to do something. So that was my thought process. But I do love Coward. So I don't know. We'll see how that looks at some point. This team has 4 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks. So that's another reason why I felt like, we're going to be young. So we can maybe afford to send some of that youth away and try and pick up some spice, if you will. So one of the players I got in that trade was Miles Bridges, who I do think is going to be pretty good. I mean, he was top 50 player in the league, really. So I think that's going to work out in our favor. I think we also ended up with... we traded away Levine actually at the beginning of the year. That may also be one we end up regretting, but that was not youth. That was getting younger as it was. So, but yeah, Miles Bridges is going to be kind of our linchpin, if you will. It seemed like I picked up someone else. Let me sort by ranking and just see if something looks better here. I think it was Porter. Yeah, I picked up... Kevin Porter in a trade, and I think also he's going to end up helping us out as well. So not a whole lot to say on this one other than draft time is going to be really, really exciting. In fact, I think I have it kind of mapped out as far as what draft picks this team's going to have. So I am a huge fan of the spreadsheet, as you can see. So we're going to have something like the 15th, the 20th, the 22nd, and the 28th, which is a little disappointing that we're not higher. But I do think volume, especially in this draft class, may matter. And so I've even got some prospective people off here to the side that I may be looking at those picks. I may trade those picks for actual players, depending on if people want them. And then I've even got kind of some second-round picks sort of projected here if I really decide that's where I want to go with those. But Sporty McSportball, again, I took it over. It's been kind of a project. And among teams, if this didn't renew or something weird like that, it wouldn't break my heart. But if it does, I will really just keep on grinding with it. So that's really all there is to say about this one. This one requires a little explanation. So this is another league that was about to die, it appeared. And I asked to be made a co-commissioner so that we could try to save it. And I was the Detroit Pistons. So if you've watched previous installments of our fantasy football updates, this was the team that was the Pistons. After being made commissioner, I switched from the Pistons to the Bucks. The Pistons ended up finishing second, so I feel like I represented that team really well. And it's pretty much intact. It has Cunningham. I think I traded away Tobias Harris just for a future pick because he's old. But, I feel like I did okay on that. It has a late draft pick because it's a really good team. And I feel like that's okay. Because in this league, I tried many, many times with that Detroit Pistons squad to trade for Cooper Flagg, and I made very serious offers. I offered a player plus 3 number 1 draft picks for Cooper Flagg, and it got vetoed. Then Cooper Flagg ended up going to another team for, frankly, less than what I offered, and I've never really quite been okay with that. So, as commissioner, I happened to notice that the Milwaukee Bucks were open, and they had, if you'll notice over here, Cooper Flagg. So they were the ones that got him. And I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to switch. And I didn't ask anybody. I just dropped the Pistons, picked up the Bucks, and now I'm basically getting a team that is not as good. But it does have some draft capital. So instead of having the 31st pick, I was going to look real quick. I have the 26th pick, which is a little bit higher. And based on total points, max points possible, actually, this team should have probably been in the playoffs. So I get Cooper Flagg. I get a little bit better draft pick. I leave a team that could easily be taken over by someone and be fine with Cunningham and Holland and all those guys for the Pistons. The other part of this, which I didn't really account for, was this team also has Anthony Davis, and I didn't look at the trade histories and stuff, but that is a lot of movable parts. I could keep him, and if he really takes off next year and stays healthy, man, I could trade him for a boatload. I could probably already trade him for a boatload. But I actually love the fact that since I'm the Bucks, a lot of people won't be looking for Cooper Flagg on my roster, and I just don't want to turn everybody down because I'm not trading him. That's just the way that's going to be. So, we've got a George here. We've got a Julius Randle. We've got just some really good pieces, I think. And I love the fact this was the biggest bonus, actually. It has McCain from the Thunder on this roster. And no, I will not be trading him either. So took a step back as far as record and as far as just ease of running the team. That Pistons team was just plug and play, man. I just set the lineups and picked the points and just kept on going. This one's going to require a little more thought. So, I'm trying to keep this league going. And so I am the commissioner of it, and we'll keep you updated going into draft and going into next season. Moving on to the next one. So case in point, as far as enthusiasm for getting ready next year, I jumped into a 32-team league, and I acquired the Washington Wizards. I wanted a team with a high draft pick. In fact, I initially had the Pacers, and then someone asked me if I would switch with them, and they had the Wizards, and I wasn't too attached to either one. So I have the Wizards, and we're waiting on the NBA lottery to figure out where the Wizards pick so that I will then know where I pick. But probably going to be a pretty decent pick, that's for sure. And then this team also has a couple of second-round picks because we did make a couple of moves. I did trade Keyshawn George and Trey Johnson, a couple of young players, and I get that. But I wanted to pick up Markkanen. I think Markkanen is going to be extremely good, and he's just been injured, and I think if you put Markkanen with this team, that's going to work out for us. That also made Cullibly expendable, and I ended up getting Moses Moody for him, plus some more draft capital. So in both the Markkanen trade and the Moody trade, I ended up picking up some second-round picks, which I do think will be helpful. So yeah, this team, I'm really looking forward to the draft, and I intend to pick just the absolute best player available at that Washington Wizards pick, which when you look at this year's draft, there's a top 3 for sure. I'm not opposed to trading back out of those top 3 if someone gives me a deal I really like, because Acuff is probably my top target, which is another reason why George ended up being a little bit expendable. So I'm taking a risk there. But, if I get Dybansa, if I get Peterson, if I get Wilson, one of those 3 guys out of the rookie draft, I probably just take them. And then we'll see what happens from there. I may even be inclined to grab whoever the Wizards grab. So if they end up with 3rd pick and I get, a chance at the same player, I might do that. So just know this one's one that I'm looking forward to next year, and not already kind of set up for next year, but waiting on June for the NBA draft. Let's move on to the next one. This one is going to be fun. I've named it Pirates of the Caribbean literally because I had a screenshot of like a pirate flag in my phone, and so I decided to use it as my avatar, and then just called myself Pirates of the Caribbean. So this is a league that was put together by a guy I met in another league. He wanted some help putting it together, and so I've helped him out. And it's a 12-team basketball dynasty, which is really cool because out of all the 32-team leagues and 24-team leagues and all that, this one, every team is going to be really deep, and just going through the draft wasn't quite so frustrating because like it came back around to you and there were still really good players left. So I have integrated, and this might prove helpful to some folks, rookies into where I think my current roster sits. And so depending on how this all shakes out, I'll have an idea of where these guys fit into my current roster. I don't know a better way to explain it. But in a 12-team league, I had the 11th pick in the startup draft, which means in the rookie draft, I now have the 2nd pick. And again, that's going to be a really good player. So just looking if it's Boozer or Peterson or Dybansa, they're going to fit in as like probably my 3rd best player. That was the idea of putting the spreadsheet together this way. So some of these guys are going to get deleted after I don't get to pick them anymore. But even these guys down here at the bottom, like I pick 1-2, and then I pick at 2-11, which is the 23rd pick. If any of these guys are available at that pick, I'm snatching them up immediately because somebody's messed up. I'm also trying to trade up in the 2nd round. I did offer my 2027 first round pick for the 112, and that would open up all these other guys to that pick. So I've heard nothing from that person, so I may not get it, but these are the guys I picked up in the startup draft all the way down to the bottom. I love this Hugo Gonzalez pick, by the way, but picked up a bunch of young guys down here, 13 through 21, and really just kind of build this team for the future. This one's a league I do think that will stick, and so there's my guy Acuff. I'm probably going to be looking at targeting him if I can get a pick somewhere around that range. So love the fact that I got Johnson in the 1st round and then Tatum in the 2nd. That is a pretty good core, I got to say. Love that I got Knupel in the 4th round, even after picking Adebayo in the 3rd. So 3rd and then 4th. So that's just really, really good core. I also ended up with Markkanen on this team, and when he comes back, that's going to be great. I ended up with Rollins in the 8th round. I've talked a little bit about him in my other league that I picked him up off the waiver wire. So, and then here's Alexander Walker, who is on a couple of teams, and I'm really excited about him. He is, by the way, SGA's cousin. I don't know if people actually know that or not, but they're related, and their game is pretty similar. So, Pirates of the Caribbean, a little 12-team league that should be really, really fun. And to accentuate the positive, that is a good thing. Let's move on to the next one. This one was a little frustrating, and if you've been following some of my videos, you might recall I had an Oklahoma City Thunder team that was really, really good, but based on some weird playoff format stuff, it did not make the playoffs. And that is this team, although now I am, instead of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I am the Memphis Grizzlies. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, I had intended to keep the Thunder, and so I traded their first round pick for McCain, and was really, really happy. And then this guy comes into the league and he wants to be the Thunder, so I let him have the Thunder, and we'll talk about why here in a little on a future league. And I decided to take the Grizzlies as more of a rebuild, if you will. And they also had 3 first-round picks, the 9th, the 20th, and the 30th. So this is a really good chance to put something together with these Grizzly players and maybe make a run. That's for sure. Would point out that Jackson is still on this team, even though he's a Utah Jazz now. And I really do like that player. I do think Morant's time in Memphis is over, but I plan on hanging on to him and seeing where he goes. Love Eddie. I think he's underrated. He's going to dominate for sure at some point. And then, a little rookie here, Small. I've had him in some other leagues, and I really like him. I actually like Jackson Hayes, this guy for the Lakers. This was a trade that happened before I even got the team, but I kind of like him. Love Kobe Sanders, rookie for the Clippers. And really just looking down the line, there's some good pieces here for sure. And I don't intend to trade much. I want to stack whatever I get in the draft with these guys, let it all sort of simmer and see where it goes. And, then we'll go from there. This guy, by the way, V. Williams, is a free agent. I do think he's going to sign somewhere. So lots of wait and see on this team. But I ended up being commissioner of this league because, again, we had a commissioner that was absent. For what it's worth, I emailed Sleeper with a screenshot of a poll we ran where most of the league wanted to keep it going and had several of us listed as new commissioners. Sleeper got back with me and made me the commissioner. So I've instituted a lot of playoff revamping and a lot of this one. I didn't do the lottery thing. I just assigned the picks based on max points for, and we just rolled with it. And this one I think is going to survive. So Memphis Grizzlies. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, from the files of the weirdest leagues possible, I bring you the NBA times College Basketball Super League here. This was one that, again, was put together toward the end of the 2025-2026 season by a guy who, he's got a great imagination for this. Some of his execution could probably use a little work because he has some hiccups and some speed bumps in his processes, but I find them to be fun, and so I'm willing to kind of put up with some of that. For example, the first time we drafted these teams, I had Cooper Flagg. Then he had to blow that whole thing up because a lot of people left because they got mad about something. I don't remember what. So we started it again with fewer people, I think, and I drafted again. So first of all, these players are in the order in which that I drafted them. Started with, I had the 22nd pick. With Cooper Flagg, I think I had like the 5th, 6th pick. I was really early. But that's fine. I ended up way later in this one. I picked up Holmgren. I came back around. I picked up Williams, both Oklahoma City Thunder players, and I felt like that was probably a good idea. So what's happening is, if you'll notice with this class column over here, based on a player's age, they are given a classification as if they were in college. Those ages basically are from, 18 to 22 is like a freshman, 23 to 26 is like a sophomore, 27 to 29, I think, or 30. Yeah. No, 27 to 29, something like that is a junior, and then anything 31 and over is a sophomore. So I think 30 actually is still a junior. But so I tried to go pretty young, as you can see. I only had a couple of juniors here, except for, and this is the crazy part of this league, going into the rookie freshman recruiting season, which is going to be these guys again, Peterson, Dybansa, Wilson, these guys coming into the NBA. The transfer portal happens. And so what he did was with each team, he spun a wheel and you lost 2 players. Now, I got really incredibly lucky. In fact, if I could have picked 2 players to lose, I probably couldn't have picked two better ones to lose, maybe except for Huff. But I lost Malik Monk, who is a junior, who I picked in the 8th round, and I lost Hachimura, who is a junior, and I lost him in the 10th round. I picked him in the 10th round. So both those teams go back in. Then what happens is every team gets 1,000 in Fab, and you run a waiver wire. And he had some problems. He was trying to put the waiver off for a few days, but Sleeper, I think, just makes you do it the next day, whether you like it or not. And so the first time through, I picked up somebody awesome, and then they reset it again because it didn't go according to plan. And a lot of people got mad and left. And I was just like, you know what, I'll just roll with it. I kept betting my 1,000 on one player because at the end of last season, we did a little mini March Madness. And the way it works is if you won, the more you won, the better tiebreaker you got. And I won the first round, and then I lost the second round, and that was pretty much it for me. But that put me ahead of half the league, tiebreaker-wise. So I bet my whole 1,000 on Scotty Barnes, who got transfer portaled off of another team. And I won the tiebreaker, and I got him. And by the way, there were several $1,000 players ahead of him. I think I got Jalen Johnson the first time we went through it, and I was really happy about that. Then I didn't get to keep him. Then people saw everybody's strategy of just bidding all their money. So there were more people who did that. And so I ended up down a little bit to Barnes. And so that's, if you'd have told me I'm going to trade Monk and Hachimura for Barnes, I would make that trade every time. So my team just got better. And then based on what I've seen, we're going to get another 1,000 to go into the recruiting phase. And I am likely going to bet my whole 1,000 on a freshman. In fact, I will probably put in waivers for everybody all the way down through ACUF at least. And then I'll just take, so I'm only getting 2 players. And you actually have more roster spots. If you want to spread out your money, you can get more roster spots. You can also, though, redshirt people, put them on your taxi squad. And as long as they stay on your taxi squad, they don't age that year going into the next year. So anyway, bottom line, it appears as though I'll probably have Powell as a freshman on my redshirt taxi squad team. Probably Huff as well. Probably Stewart as well. And then it gets kind of interesting because I'd probably start Barnes. I'd probably start White. And that leaves like Kalkbrenner and Carrington as possible redshirts. But if injuries happen and you take them off the taxi squad, they lose that red shirt just like in college. So probably roll them with Holmgren and Williams and Fox, the rest of the way here. Fox, I think his time in San Antonio is going to be limited after next season, so I don't know how that works. But probably roll with Bridges. So my team got better. I can definitely tell you that just by getting rid of those 2 and picking up Barnes. My team is better, and I should be in pretty good shape barring injuries. So there's a football league as well based on this format, and I will happily talk about it when I do my football preview video. But this one's kind of interesting. I really like it. It has some turnover as it relates to somewhere between redraft and dynasty. You get some new blood, if you will, on your teams. And by the way, just for the record on the football one, I went extremely young. I have almost all freshmen, so I'll be happy to show you all that whenever we get to that point. But that is the NBA College Basketball Super League, and I'll be happy to update you on that one going into next year. Let's talk about another one. Just a quick touch base on this one. This was a 16-man redraft league that I dominated all year long. And then by the time it got to the playoffs, everybody was hurt. And I think I finished eighth. I think I lost every single round in the postseason. So lost in the first round of the playoffs to the eighth seed, lost in the consolation for like what, fifth place or whatever that was. And then I think I lost for seventh place as well. So a lot of people just got hurt there toward the end. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was not playing, and when I was in the playoffs, Jackson got hurt. He was hurt during the playoffs, and that pretty much cooked me. So, of my teams, this one probably is the most easy to not renew. It kind of depends on when the draft happens and if I'm busy that day. But the redraft I do find in basketball to be not as fun. I like the dynasty aspect better. Because there's just a little bit more of a slow burn to it and a little bit more thought process involved. And redraft is just sort of random. It seemed it really came down to injuries in the end, and I'm not really mad about it. I was thinking of all my teams, this was the most obvious one to win it all, and that ended up not being the case. So we'll see how this goes. Going into next year, but redraft is probably not my priority. I really do like the dynasty. Let's move on to another one. Just noticed we are over an hour on this already, so this is going to be a legacy deal. I get it. Watch it in stages if you need to, but I'm just going to press on. So we get to a Oklahoma City Thunder team that I now own. This is the third iteration, really, of this league, and it strikes me that in these sleeper leagues, there's just so much turnover. I feel like there's certain people that troll to try to get things blown up in the beginning. There's certain people that troll at the end of things to try to get them blown up, and there's commissioners that just like do all this process and work and then end up deleting it at the end. So. One of the reasons I gave up the Thunder in the other league for the Grizzlies is because I got the Thunder in this league, and I did make a couple of moves. I traded away Sorber because a guy wanted him. I think it was an expansion franchise, and I said, look, I'll trade him for you. So I got a first-round pick for Sorber, late one, and then I ended up losing Hartenstein through the expansion draft. So I actually don't have Hartenstein, and I don't have Sorber. One of the reasons really is because I think Hartenstein is maybe 1 or 2 more years with the Thunder, and then he's probably out contractually because I don't think they can afford to pay him. And I have Sorber in a lot of leagues. So I thought maybe with the actual Thunder league I have, I can take the chance to, go another route, if you will. And the beauty of it is with the Thunder roster is Holmgren actually plays center. So you can put him in at center, and then that gives you some flexibility depending on who else you get later on. The other part of this league is they decided to mirror the draft picks as they relate to the NBA draft in June. So I got the Clippers pick, and that in this league is the 14th pick because there are 2 expansion teams, or it would have been the 12th. And then I have the 20th pick, which is the Thunder's own pick, if you will. And then I have the 25th pick, which is the pick I got for Sorber, which I do think, I think I could have gotten more, frankly. But the guy wanted him. It's an expansion franchise. He's the guy who did not get Hartenstein. So that's one of those diplomacy trades. Sure, here you go. And then later on, if I decide to do some work with you, maybe you'll give me the benefit of the doubt next time. I understand it's not guaranteed, but I like to keep those options open, that's for sure. So 14th, 20th, and 25th pick in this coming draft, which again is a very deep draft. And I get to throw those young guys in the mix with this championship roster, which I really like. So I now only own one Thunder team. There's one other one hanging out there, but I just think it's probably dead in the water. And so this will be my Thunder team moving forward. We won't spend much time on this one. So moving on to the next one. This one is called the Charlotte Hornets. The startup was pretty simple, basically. It was you picked an NBA team. I picked the Hornets. You get one keeper off of that team. I had already acquired Con Canoopel in some other leagues, and so I decided to keep LaMelo Ball as my keeper. And I can tell you now, I almost wish I'd have just stuck with Con, really. But whatever, it's fine. I actually thought, too, maybe I would get to pick him, but I did not get to pick him. He ended up going, I think, in the first round, and I had the 9th pick. And maybe I should have picked him with the 9th pick after everybody had their keepers. But I picked another Charlotte Hornet, Miller, and I did try to kind of stick with the Hornets theme. So I didn't get them all, but I did get a few. So Kalkbrenner being another one. So this is, again, just kind of a startup here. Not much to say on this other than we'll see if it survives. Knowing, again, as long as this video has gotten in as many leagues as I've been talking about, I fully expect a lot of these are not going to make it. And I do know next year I'm not going to have the time to find other leagues. So I have overshot a little bit, hoping that through some natural attrition, it'll come back down to a more realistic number. For what it's worth, I'm prepared to manage them all. But in this case, it was kind of a cool startup. So we ran the draft, and I got to keep one Charlotte Hornet, and then the rest of these guys just accumulated as it were. This team has picked 24, and then the rookie draft is also a snake, so it's going to be 24 and then pick 2.9, which again might mean there's somebody good out there. I feel like there's a pretty good chance. We'll see. Let's move on to the next one. Here's another example again of me probably biting off more than I can chew, because this one has taken a lot of time. But again, I'm interested in some interesting formats. In fact, going into next year, I think I will make much shorter videos as it relates to just each league or each team. So I'll make just one video per team, and then that way people can kind of discern what they want to follow and what they don't. I mean, again, I got to be honest. I'm doing this kind of for my own thought processes and just basically trying to get used to making content, that sort of thing. For, I don't know, someday somebody might want some good background noise to fall asleep to. So that's the way that's going to go. This is a team. I picked the San Antonio Spurs, which is pretty much irrelevant. I did get 0 San Antonio Spurs on this team. I went into it thinking I might try to bid on Wembanyama. He went pretty expensive, although not as expensive as I thought he would. But I just picked a team, and that was what they said. Just pick a team, doesn't matter. Because it was a 32-team auction, and they definitely had the timer way too long, and it took 3 days of 5-hour sessions, so 15 hours, and they still didn't quite get done. We might talk about that here in a little bit. Part of the process, though, was this. You had to spend 700 of your 1,000 in the startup draft, minimum. If you did not, then you did not qualify for the rookie draft. So my decision was I wasn't going to try to hit it right at 300. As you can see, there were 7 teams that did hit exactly 300 remaining. So they're going to be the top 7 teams in the likely, unless they decide to split up their money some weird way, likely the top 7 picks in the rookie draft. What I decided to do was I was going to just pick some teams, some players that I liked at a bargain, that I considered to be a bargain. And then as soon as I went beyond that 700, and it didn't have to be exact, I was going to stop. And so here's what happened. I ended up getting Garland, Markkanen, Edey, and Halliburton. The most I spent on anyone was Halliburton. I was targeting Con Canoopel, and I had a little technical glitch where I couldn't get my bid in time, and he went for like $260 anyway. So I ended up getting a lot of these guys for cheaper. And but those 4 players put me at like $287. So I had spent my 700. And that was at the end of the first night, which was actually, I think, 6 hours of auction. So I went and worked out. I went and did a bunch of other stuff. I just had it on in the background. In 6 hours, I bid on 4 players, basically, and got them. So Um, then I decided I was not going to bid anymore. So I did a little research on it, and at that point, I had like the 16th most amount of money out of the whole league. But what I decided was the next night I watched it, but I bid on no one. Watched 5 hours and bid on no one. Then the next night, which was last night, I watched for another probably 4.5 hours, and I bid on no one. So I went 9.5 hours, 10 hours without bidding on anyone. Then I noticed that some players were starting to go for, the minimum. And I kept my spreadsheet here, and I happened to notice that between me, who is now at the 8th pick here, and the next player, I had like $80 to work with. So I could actually bid a little bit and still keep my draft position. So I started putting bids on some players. McNeely, I had to pay 13. I was shocked. I thought I'd get him for 1. I started bids at 3 instead of 1, which I do think kind of helped me. So Powell, I ended up getting for 5. Small, I got for 3. Penda, Rupert, I got for 3. So those were pretty cheap. Then, all of a sudden, they decided to end the auction, and I was not full yet. So I told them who I wanted. I wanted Cam Jones, good one for the Suns, and I wanted Sanders. And could they just throw him on my team since we were ending the auction? Of course, somebody said they wanted Sanders. So I said, well, what's your max bid? They said 35. I said, I bid 36. And so I got him for 36, and it still kept me in this 8th pick. Then I asked them to put the other 2 on my team, and they would not do so. So I now have waiver claims in for these 2. I don't really have to get them, but whatever. I feel like I should have gotten them because I was hanging in there to the very end, but they were tired of it. So, folks, I would just say if you're going to run a league and you're going to say that you're going to do a thing, do the thing. Just stick with it. And even if you have to just pause it and start it again the next day, do it. But in their defense, Sleeper might have been hiccuping a little because somebody kept drafting the same player over and over again or something, which was weird. And so it's fine. So I ended up with 224. So then what I did, you get to bid on your draft picks in the first, well, really the only 2 rounds. So I looked at the next in line. They have 202. They have to save $1 for their second round pick, so they can only bid 201. But I still, as a matter of just a principle, in case I mess something up, I bid 203 on my first round pick, which should still keep me here at the 8th pick. Acuff, again, possibly in that range. Also, possibly not. He could be gone by then. Probably should be gone by then. But that leaves me with 21, which I think there's a big difference between 20 and 21, for my second round pick. And if you'll look, if all these people bid all their money on their first round pick and save $1 for the second round pick, there's a decent chance I'll get the 2-1 coming back. So the 1-8 and the 2-1. And I am interested in the 2-1 again because I think it's a deep enough draft that there could be somebody there. So I'm interested to see how that bidding pans out. I think we're supposed to know by Monday. Today is Thursday. And they just started an NFL league modeling this system. And I have joined it and agreed to help them run it because I feel like this one had some hiccups in it that I could have avoided if I'd have been in charge. So anyway, so this is, I went really, really young. I got McNeely. I got Small, Sanders, Rupert, Penda, and Jones. These are all rookies from last year. And then I'm going to throw with that a couple of rookies from this incoming class. And then I got to be honest, after the rookie draft, I think the waiver wire might have an interesting presentation or two of some people that get left out. So we'll see. It's only a 12-team, 12-player roster. So you got to really, value your roster spots. And I might have to do some trading. But I also am big on in Sleeper in the off season, if you can pack your IR spots, if you can pack your taxi spots, and then just deal with that little warning that it gives you every single time you log in saying you're over the roster limit or you've got people in IR that shouldn't be there or whatever. None of that matters in the off season. Just keep them. And then going into the season, you've got the chance to maybe trade, or don't just cut them. It gets a little tricky if you're still trying to do waiver wire pickups and stuff because it won't let you. But if you did it right, then whoever's available out there on the waiver wire probably not going to be a whole lot better than what you've already got. So anyway, so I'm pretty excited about this one. I've been messaging the commissioners, and they even asked for my spreadsheet here because they were kind of curious how I had sorted the data. And I think it's going to be very helpful for them. By the way, I coded green the people that were finished with the draft whenever we finished. So that's the only thing the green matters. Let's talk about the next one. This one is the Denver Nuggets. Once again, a 32-team league. I just picked up all the Nuggets. And I really had not had a chance to have Jokic on a team at that point. So I just figured it was probably worthwhile. And they're probably catching me, just in times when I'm staring at my phone too much or something like that. And, moment of weakness. But if half of these leagues fold, which could be very possible, then, in the end, I probably did it right. So I did make a couple of trades on this one, one including Jamal Murray, which may or may not be a good thing. But what I did was, and this is something I believe in real life, actually. All you Nuggets fans, brace yourself. I think the Nuggets should have started the rebuild really after the championship that they won a couple of years ago. They're not athletic, at least in the terms of like an Oklahoma City Thunder team. And Jokic might be the best player I've ever seen. It's not quite there yet because Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but he is one of the best for sure. He's top 5. I probably put him in my all-time top 5. So you need to surround him with people that are diving on the floor, that are playing defense, that are open for shots and hitting them. You got to be a lot more athletic, I think, in today's NBA. So I decided to start the rebuild, and that means I traded Jamal Murray, and then I picked up, I think it was Kevin Porter, and then I traded him. And out of all that, I ended up getting 3 number 1 first-round draft picks and 2 second-round draft picks to add to the 3 first-round picks that I already had. And then they also did some real life mirroring as far as other picks that the Nuggets already owned. So I say all that to say this. I have in the upcoming rookie draft to add to my Nuggets roster as it stands right now 3 number 1 picks. I have the 112, which I think is amazing. That was part of the Jamal Murray trade. And that was a lottery pick. And I didn't get any real grace as far as the lottery went. But that's okay. I'll take the 12th pick. And then I got pick 28 and I got pick 31. And then I also have pick 2.04. And even though I know it's a 32-team league, and by the time you're talking the 2-4, it's a 36th player off the board, I think it's going to be a good player. There have been very, very good second-round picks in the past, and I'm really hoping I hit on one of those. And then I also have the 228 and the 231. So lots of draft capital in addition to 3 first-round picks in 2027. So I feel like I've got the Nuggets set up for a pretty sustained reload. I don't know that it's a rebuild, but it's a reload for sure. And then I can maybe hit on some of these picks and trade some other aging stars and get some people to go with Jokic. But I will probably keep Jokic until he retires, at least as far as this team goes. And that, of course, again, is assuming that this league survives. Let's talk about the next one. This one I have updated you guys a few times on in previous videos. Sleeperholics, very mediocre. It went 9-9, finished 16 in a 32-team league. Really a grind. Once again, this was a team I took over. I did not draft it. But I must say that the season has been renewed. I have the 16th pick coming up in the draft, and I have the 26th pick coming up in the draft, and then 4 second-round picks, which again I feel might end up being moderately valuable. So there's a chance for this one to get young, get some developmental talent sitting in the wings, waiting to take over. Really don't like having Poeltl. I wish I could get rid of him and trade him. Love having Garland. I traded for him, and I'm pretty happy about that. I think I did. He may have actually been on the team when I picked it up. I can't remember. Would love to get rid of Porzingis. I am looking to trade those two guys. Give somebody a bargain. I will be looking to give someone a bargain on that. But lots of young guys on this team, and I would even trade Tobias Harris. That's another one that probably needs to go. Relied a little bit too much, I think, on guys like Duncan Robinson. If he's in your starting lineup, then you are not competitive. That is for sure. Poeltl's on the IR as much as I got to start him. Porzingis is on the IR twice as much as I got to start him. And I just am not impressed with those guys. For what it's worth, Tobias Harris was pretty reliable. So hanging on to Fox again. We'll see how that goes. But you can see I really just mixed and matched a lot of players in here with this team, and lots of cuts, lots of trades, trying to make things work. Because if you're 9-9, to me you got to mix it up. The same thing's not going to get you better results. So Sleeperholics, if it renews, well, actually it did renew, so I will be updating you on that one next year. Let's move on to the next one. Not much to say on this one. Took over an in real life IRL roster league. Took over the Portland Trailblazers. I've had to turn down a lot of trade requests for Avdija, Clegane, keeping those guys. I wish people would send me offers for Holiday, Grant, and Lillard. Those are guys I would definitely trade. We had the 15th pick in the first round and in the second round, and that pretty much is it for this team for now. I don't even actually remember why I picked Portland. I think I had kind of free reign. I tend to jump into these things early. And I just, I don't know, was looking for probably again sort of a mid draft pick. It's usually why I decide on the team I decide on, unless there's just a player I'm targeting. But that's pretty much what happened with this one. If it survives, I will update you next year on it. Let's talk about another. Tulsa Roughnecks. Ball sometimes lies. The story behind this one, actually, this is a 20-team dynasty. I think there was maybe a 24-team dynasty that was created. We went all the way through the draft. We went all the way through everything. Found out that the guy who put it together had two different accounts, both in the same league. And so everybody left, and they sent me a link to a replacement league, and this is the way leagues tend to go in Sleeper. 20-team dynasty, and then we had a draft, and then we finished the season. By the way, out of the 20 teams, I finished 6th, which means I snuck into the playoffs, and then I won the first round against the 3 seed, and then lost the second round, and then I won the consolation, so I finished 3rd in this league. Notice I went pretty young. I did end up with Jokic in this league, so I had a pretty high pick. And again, just decided I would go with the best player, and that was him. Also got Khan, got Castle, Carrington, Kalkbrenner, got some really good young players. In fact, this team is a little weird in that we did a 12-team, I guess it was more like a 10-player draft. And then it was late at night. I was in Oklahoma visiting family, and they put together a 7-round draft right after that. And I guess their idea was they were just going to autofill the rest of the rosters. But I actually was on and happened to see it, and so I went in and picked all rookies. And so I ended up with a whole bunch of rookies on this team. Did end up with Van Vliet and Lively on my IR, and I'm kind of waiting for them to come back. I have some notes on this one, so let me just check them real quick. The draft on this has not been set. It has been renewed though, so it's interesting to me how some leagues like to renew and just kind of keep things going. That's usually, as a commissioner, the way I prefer it. Um, to me, the new year starts, shortly after the year is over, so you can get back into trading. You can get your draft set. You can, I like watching the little countdown, even if it's 170 days away, for the next thing, whatever that is. But not too concerned in this draft, though. I'm probably going to end up with like the 15th pick out of 20. I finished 6th, so I don't know that the third place finish necessarily plays into that. I also, by the way, have Sorber and Gonzalez in this league, and I'm pretty excited about both of those guys. So, again, 20-team league, a little different than the 32, a little different than the 12. Frankly, a little different than the 24. So, just something to update you guys on again next year when the time comes. Let's talk about the next one. For those of you who have hung out with me this long, know this is the last team we're going to talk about today. I call this one Zombie Outbreak because, again, it was a takeover of a orphan, and most of the time it's usually someone cool asks me for help, and so I'm willing to jump in. So that's pretty much what happened. Can't say a whole lot about this team. It finished 19-19, 17th in the league out of how many teams? Let me just check that real quick. This one, by the way, has not renewed, which does mean it may not make it. But yeah, this one's a 32 teamer, so we're very average. Got some good pieces, young pieces here and stuff, but not sure where I'm going to land in the draft. Not sure if it's even going to get renewed, but I did take over and try to help out as best I could. I think it all happened before. I don't know that I ever even set a lineup on this team or anything. I think it just happened at the end of the year. And yeah, that's just the way this kind of went. Topic, by the way, at the end of the year just crushed it. Also with the Charlotte Hornet, Miller again. Do like me some John Collins with the Clippers. I targeted him in my other auction league and hadn't gotten him. So I don't know. We're just going to kind of see how this goes. If they're picking, and again, you can tell this has been around a while actually. So I'm going to guess it's going to renew because here was a first round pick in 2025, and it looks like the startup was 2023. Topic was picked the first round in 2024. So they've been keeping this thing going, it looks like, and I'll probably just be along for the ride, and I'll update you accordingly. One thing I wanted to mention real quick that I wanted to get better at. So as you'll know, I, again, had one Dynasty League that I was really focused on, and I didn't feel like my evaluative tool was good enough as it related to players, as it related to trades, and that sort of thing. So now, having been in a bunch of leagues, made a bunch of trades, been able to kind of process how I felt about them afterward. Again, I can tell you, number one, most trades end up balancing out over time. So you don't really have to worry about them that much. If you traded a guy for a first round pick, or you used a first round pick on a guy, and then later have to trade him for a second or a third because he didn't pan out, maybe he takes off later and it helps out that guy, and maybe he doesn't. But it all balances out, I think, in the end. You pick up Ryan Rollins on the waiver wire for $2, and then you start him 23 times in the year. So one of the reasons I joined all these leagues was to kind of expand my mind around player evaluation and kind of knowing how that was going to work. But another thing that has popped into my brain as I've been doing these videos today, when I joined the auction league, I really thought that is going to be a gigantic tool to help me, because now I have a 32-team auction league where they were able to bid on all the players as they came up, and I have pretty much a dollar amount now to show the value of a player. The most expensive player in that league was Cooper Flagg, $511 out of $1,000. I think Victor Wembanyama was next at like 463 or something like that. But now, if someone tried to make a Wemby trade or tried to make a flag trade, I could look at those draft picks, because we also have dollar amounts for the draft picks. I could look at those dollar amounts for those players. I could kind of add them up and just see if they, see if they mesh, see if they vibe. And that's something I'm kind of looking forward to having as a tool in the future. Again, probably the last long video I'll do. We'll do real short videos for each team, is the way we'll do that in the future. And we're pretty much putting basketball to bed. We got football coming. The draft is tonight. NFL draft is tonight. And I actually, I think, have a couple of drafts scheduled for next week for football. I do have some NBA stuff scheduled, though, again, for June after the NBA draft, trying to knock that out before football really gets going. So we'll try and keep that momentum, I guess is the best way to put it. One other side note, I'm in only four fantasy baseball leagues, and I do intend to put a video together on those. So brace yourself for that. And when we start getting into football, that's going to be pretty intense, I think. That'll just be a team by team. I can already tell you. We won't do a long video on that one. So thanks for hanging in there. And again, if this was just background noise and you're asleep now, hope you sleep well, and check back in again sometime. And stay safe out there.